Part 32. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 312. Trinity New Design. Well, since that's the case, then I will help you choose. Yekong finally let out under the flesh offensive. However, after watching it for a while, he finally shook his head. Although Baijier's cutting skills are outstanding, the design aspects are still too conservative, which is far worse than modern fashion. The clothes here still don't fit. Should this master design a set for you? Yekong thought about it. Do you still design women's clothes? Zhang Wei looked at Yekong in surprise. But Baijier believed that Li Xianxi's curious thought was not the first time he had met. She quickly took the pen and paper and smiled. What's your old woman's clothes again? Exactly. Yekong picked up the pen and paper while drawing. This is a set of clothes most suitable for a 16-17-year-old girl. After wearing it, it not only shows the youthful vigor of the girl, but also touches it. People, this suit is extremely destructive to old, middle, and small men, especially Uncle Salty and Wet. This skirt can be called a salty wet guy killer, an essential magic weapon for young girls. Some hooligan has increased his painting skills recently, although the painting is not very similar, but with his explanation, the two women still understand. Okay, this is the Island Girl miniskirt designed by Li Hiza for decades of dedication and research. Looking at the short skirt and the top with a small pointed tie, Zhang Wei can imagine the youth and liveliness of wearing this skirt, but this skirt is too short. Kuriko, what kind of island country or skirt? Can I wear pants inside? Zhang Wei asked. Yekong shook his head. You don't have to wear them. You don't look good in pants. But this is too short, and the obscene trousers cannot be covered. Then I can wear my newly developed T-shaped bag that can't cover the obscene pants. Besides, let the legs come out to show you a pair of mercerized socks. Yekong's exit immediately attracted Baijier's eyes. All right. Take my things to pick up girls. Zhang Wei was even more confused. Hey brother, what is that dungaree that can't cover the obscene pants? Yekong hasn't spoken yet. Blushing Baijier has opened Zhang Wei and shouted, ignore him, he talks nonsense. Although the student's skirt was pretty good, Zhang Wei did not adopt it in the end. After all, in the Kangnan continent, it takes too much courage to wear this kind of clothes. I am afraid that it is only those open-minded women who have the courage to leak the leg in public. Well, you can't blame me with outside. Yekong shook his head and said, you can choose and try on it here, I'll come and go. Zhang Wei was nostalgic at all, waving his hand and saying, chat with your friend for a while, don't rush back. Without conscience, just now I don't know who said that life and death would not come. Yekong snorted out of the women's clothing factory. Now that it's out, go to the Yi family store and go around. It just happens that there are not many auxiliary materials for refining the spirit beast. Although the 6 are big enough for half a year, can you be prepared? Anyway, you still have a large warehouse-like storage. What about the ring? In the alley opposite to the alley, he changed his clothes. Yekong came to the Yi family firm, and the shopkeeper received him again. The shopkeeper said that Master Gao had accompanied Master Yi to Yun Fuzong, and also said that Master Yang wanted to see him differently. Ye hollowed out, Yi Meniying's woman wasn't ordinary shrewd, maybe she was suspicious. Fortunately, the Yi family firm does not know that he is Yun Fuzong's person, otherwise the woman must go to the small medicine garden to find himself. He was afraid that Yi Meniying would return, and he did not want to delay. He bought the necessary materials and left. Although the shopkeeper tried to keep Yekong waiting for Yi Meniying to return, Yekong pretended to be a profound way. You will meet by fate. If you violate the heavens and meet artificially, it is not beautiful. The hooligan technology of a hooligan is indeed getting higher and higher. He walked for a while, but the shopkeeper has not yet thought about it. But at this moment, Yema was already on his way back. Of course, This time he went to the Yi family firm and did not forget to search for a batch of spiritual fruits. Sister Cucumber loves it. Well, Ben Chiu doesn't think of her at all, it's because of fellowship. Ye Kong thought deceivingly, and returned to Dongju Street, and estimated the time. It was only half an hour before he left. In the women's clothing workshop, there is a small room with a large mirror hanging inside, which is used as a dressing room for those women who need a fitting. In order to serve Li Xianxi's sister, Bai Jie closed most of the shop door and put an inventory sign outside the door, dedicated to serving Zhang Weihai alone. Zhang Weihai was a little embarrassed. Before that, she always felt that Bai Jie was not a good woman. I never expected that people would be so good to herself. Sister Bai, in fact, what island dress was really good just now? Zhang Weihai changed a few clothes, and he never missed the short skirt developed by Ye Kong. When the two women are together, it is also convenient to speak. Bai Jie giggled, "Would you like to cut one for you? Don't waste your time. You cut it out and I can't wear it." Bai Jie couldn't help but test it. "I think Master Li Xian is good." Although Zhang Weihai's relationship with Ye Kong has improved, but she hasn't reached that point, she quickly pushed out, "Sister Bai, what are you talking about? He's not as high as I am." After Zhang Weihai finished speaking, I felt that Bai Jie was quite decent, and she definitely had no bad relationship with Li Hizi. Otherwise, how could she push the man she got out? Bai Jie feels that Zhang Weihai is not interesting to Li Xianxi, and Zhang Weihai also feels that Bai Jie is still very decent, so the relationship is more harmonious, and now the sisters cried out constantly. No interest, it's even more affectionate. Zhang Weihai asked again, "Sister, what can't cover up obscene pants?" Bai Jie giggled, took out a pair of trousers from the small drawer behind, and handed it over to a small cover. Under Bai Jie's explanation, Zhang Weihai flushed. "What the hell, it's all designed by that black egg, that guy is so nasty." While the two were talking, a little girl's voice came from outside, "Aunt Bai, your family Xianer asked you to go back." Bai Jie was shocked to hear that his son had never let anyone call himself. Could something have happened? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 313. Go back on 3, 2. Sister Weihai, you choose clothes in the store yourself. I close the store door and I will go back. Bai Jie hurriedly left the women's clothing factory, looked up and saw that the little girl who had just called herself took it from a black-faced monk Marshmallow walked away happily. Bai Jie immediately understood what was going on and martyred, "Let the child lie and teach the child badly." Watching the sign touching the wind caused the woman to walk over with a smile, and saw Ye Kong Lian swallowing. "The child didn't know if Xianer was looking for you, maybe she thought I was Xianer. Then you have to call my mother." Bai Jie hid her mouth and smiled, just like a delicate peach blossom blooming in the sun, plucking people. It depends on whether you have this ability. Ye Kong could not wait any longer. As soon as she pulled Bai Jie's horror, she could not resist, and pulled her into the alley diagonally opposite the women's clothing workshop. This is the alley leading to Bai Jie's residence. There are 4 doors in the alley. One is Bai Jie's house. Don't worry about anyone. Another was closed, and the other 2 doors were the back doors of large households, which almost never opened. The alley was lined with neat and smooth bluestone slabs, and the sides of the alley were more than 3 meters of blue brick walls with blue moss and dogtail grass stroking back and forth. Looking down from the top, I saw a woman with tall hair on the corner of the alley, with her back against the wall, and a dark-faced boy holding her long neck with peach blossoms excitedly. Zhang Weihai was probably in a hurry. He had already seen the diagonally opposite street, and the familiar red clothes were looking around. It is estimated that she did not know where Bai Jie lived, otherwise she would definitely look for it. As a mortal, Bai Jie couldn't take it anymore. When she stood still, her legs softened and she almost fell down. Fortunately, Ye Kong supported her. I'll blame you, Baijier couldn't help but whisper again, thinking about doing this kind of thing with this guy in the alley. Yekong smiled and asked Baijier to stand still before he started to organize his clothes and pants. Baijier held out her small head and looked out. She also saw Zhang Wuyi. She called out badly, and quickly raised her strength to tidy up her clothes. Seeing Baiji's embarrassment, Yekong, who first mentioned his pants, suddenly thought of a very complicated problem. Sister Ji, how many pairs of socks did you? A total of 3 pairs, in addition to the pair you gave to Wu Yi's sister, there are 2 pairs, a pair of transparent and a pair of black. Thinking of this kid giving away the dirty silk socks, Baijier could not help but curse, BT. That's to say, there are only these black ones. Yekong's eyes widened. He wanted to send Huang Zixuan a pair of black ones, but now. Sister Ji does this have snow silk? Yekong thought again, snow silk is a lot anyway, how many pairs should we have? Unexpectedly, Baijier returned his eyes and said, no, don't you feel that the hood and the pants are so cold and slippery? It turns out, it's all made of silkworm silk. Yekong scratched his head, wondering what to say. What do you ask? Baijier's clothes were almost finished, and he looked up and asked. But looking at Yekong's expression, she immediately understood that this little thief asked for this thing on time. Although Baijier was annoyed, her jealousy was not too strong. After all, polygamy was deeply rooted in the Kangnan continent. Probably this is the biggest benefit of crossing it. Wait for me when I get home. Baijier was not stingy. Most of the snow silks of thousands of spirit stones were actually worn on her. But Yekong was worried, but I promised people to give black. Seeing Yekong not talking, Baijier was shocked. You won't want to be contaminated by you again. You. Yekong smiled bitterly, Sister Cucumber, not her brother BT, there is no way. After getting it done, Baijier first returned to the women's clothing factory. Yekong came over after a while. After the impulse just now, Yekong actually wanted to bring Baijier and Chen Baixuan back to Yunfuzong, so there was no need to separate the two places, but thinking of Cao Muking's ancestor, Yekong still suppressed this idea. If the woman looks at Baijier again and again, and wants to dye her fingers, then nothing will happen. Seeing Yekong return, Zhang Wuyi greeted him, pointed to a piece of clothes she had chosen, and asked, how about this one? Mr. Designer. Yekong looked at it. It was a skirt with a lot of streamers. It should look like a flower and butterfly on her body. It was still suitable for Zhang Wuyi's age, so she nodded in approval. Then Zhang Wuyi asked about the wood thorns. When Yekong took out the tree thorns he had cultivated, Zhang Wuyi opened his moisturized mouth with surprise. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 314. 313 is a fool. Zhang Wuyi was so shocked that he couldn't believe it, holding the wooden thorns and still incredulously asking, is this for me? It has grown at least 3,000 years. At first she thought it was a millennium of wood thorns, so it was already very valuable, much better than Cao Muking's planting in the medicine garden, but who knows that the wood thorns that Yekong took out look at least 3,000 years old. Any spirit grass is a treasure after 3,000 years. It is hard to see outside, and you may not be able to buy it with spirit stones. If it is worth, the minimum price of this 3,000-year-old wood thorn is tens of thousands. If it is an auction, it may sell for a high price of tens of thousands, and this guy actually bought it for only 2,800 deer stones. Why? No. I don't want to take it back. Looking at Zhang Wuyi's look of surprise, Yekong's thought of returning 1,000 spirit stones was also dispelled. If only 1,800 spirit stones are said, this girl must be not to believe. I told my friend that there were only 2,008. If you like it or not, he had no choice but to sell it. Yekong began to make up nonsense again. Zhang Wei put the wood thorns into the storage bag. Very baby, giggled. Yekong was inexplicable, and Zhang Wei said something that made Yekong vomit blood. I see. Your friend must be a fool. My aunt, you are a fool. After chatting for a while in Baijier's shop, Yekong and Zhang Wei said goodbye to returning to the mountain. As for Zhang Wei's custom-made clothes, she already knew the place anyway, so she turned back to pick it up. On the way back to Zone, Zhang Wei was very happy. She probably had a new dress and materials for refining the defensive weapon. She laughed all the way. Yekong always felt that Zhang Wei was not the same as when he came before, but there was nothing different, but he couldn't tell. After leaving the city, Zhang Wei released the Hot Wheel and jumped up. Yekong knew why. Wei, have you put on clothes in there? Yekong smirked, and stepped on the implement to ask. Zhang Wei glanced back at him, of course knowing what the boy wanted to say. Why? Sister Baijier sent me. You want to go also? Zhang Wei couldn't help but laugh. What do you want a man to wear? Yekong wanted to talk to her about her feelings about her dress, what color she had, but she came back with a soft nail, and it was hard to say anything at the moment. But after flying for a while, Zhang Wei couldn't help but blushed and asked, Brother, hey, that hood, would anyone see it in it? I thought that women in the Kangnan mainland wore belly bands, and Zhang Wei was also embarrassed to be the first to eat crabs. It would be really a shame to be seen by others. Of course, Yekong would not let go of this brazen eye-opening opportunity to eat tofu, and said immediately, then you stop and let me take a closer look. Zhang Wei was afraid that people would laugh when he returned to the mountain, so he had to stop, but at this moment Yun Fuzong was in front of him. If he hung in the air and let a man stare at an important part of himself, it would be hard to tell when he saw it. Otherwise we go down into the woods and look. Okay, Yekong agreed, of course. In the deep woods, a boy carefully admired a woman's breasts. Wow, it's so cool to look through clothes. I wonder how red the little pepper face should be? However, reality is not as perfect as imagination. When the two of them lowered the magic weapon, Yekong had no time to watch the milk, and they heard the faint sound of the magic weapon from the distance in the woods. To the reader, Xiaoman's interview was on the bottom of the climbing list of the Book City homepage, and Taoist friends supported it. It's scrolling. I saw it without refreshing a few times. Thanks a lot. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 315. 3. 4 Encounters Private Fight. Listening to the sound of the fight was about 3 or 4 miles away. The sound of the blast of spells and the collision of the instruments kept ringing, making people feel that the battle was still very fierce. Zhang Wei naturally heard the fighting, wondering, who the did you dare to fight near Yun Fuzong's gate? Yekong was still thinking about watching the milk. Although he was also curious, but looking at the snow-filled mountains of Chile so boldly, the opportunity was rare. However, Zhang Wei has changed his mind at this moment. Although wearing clothes, a man can stare at his chest, and this Li Hezi is so thoughtful that he will certainly make a joke. So Zhang Wei regretted it a little bit, and there was no excuse for Zhen worry. Now that someone is fighting, naturally she won't let Yekong watch. Watching the little pepper running ahead, Yekong followed and reminded, Wu Yi, let me see it. If you look back, it might be ugly. Seeing Zhang Wei didn't seem to respond, Yekong threatened with good intentions and said, don't think about it, in fact, I totally consider it for you. Although this women's underwear is nothing, after all, it is less dressed, and others will inevitably make a fuss, maybe you pass me on, I passing him becomes a secret that everyone knows. Dead black egg, obviously he wanted to see it, and said so grandly. Zhang Wei severely despised Yerog, and turned back, who will see from the inside, if it is passed on, it is yours. It seems that today cannot appreciate the little peppers of twins Ziyufeng. Alas, what a chance. Ye Kong was depressed and couldn't help cursing, it's abominable. Whoever doesn't have such long eyes, doesn't choose a good place for a fight. Zhang Wei covered his mouth and laughed. The black egg was really shameless. He obviously wanted to see it and said it was good for me. I can't see it now, and I'm so angry. Ye Kong found Zhang Wei smiling, and could not help but ask boldly, Wu Yi, I don't know what color Bai Jie gave you. Also, is it all or just the upper half? Of course, Zhang Wei would not answer such a question, turned his head, and gave him a bright-eyed autumn eyes. His ancestors were stubborn, so you treat me like the father of this bra. Ye Kong was so annoyed that he would not invent something for these women in the future. High heels, sanitary napkins, don't even think about it. Soon, the two came to the place of the fight. Ye Kong was surprised that the fight was on the open space outside the woods, and the open space was very close to the Yunfuzong mountain gate. What kind of people are fighting? Don't you know this is Yunfuzong's territory? Ye Kong was curious. As the distance approached, Ye Kong could already see the golden light flying outside the woods, and the sound of the impact was even louder. He even heard the noise of the nuns, as if there were many outsiders. In order to prevent others from discovering it, Zhang Wei slowed down slowly, carefully, and walked to the edge of the forest by covering it. Outside the woods, two male corrections fought fiercely, a golden light and a yellow light kept colliding and circling, hitting each other in the air. Behind the two monks in the fighting method, there are 7 or 8 monks. They seem to be the helpers who have been invited from both sides, but the helpers have not shot, but they verbally yell at each other. Ye Kong and Zhang Wei hid behind a tree. Now they understand why no one cares, and those who dare to fight there are all Yunfuzong disciples. However, there are also differences. The one standing on the right side, that is, the side that controls the golden light instrument, has 3 golden clouds embroidered on the chest. The disciples standing on the left have only 1 or 2 clouds. The situation is very clear. There are disciples in the inner hall and disciples in the outer hall. The disciple in the inner hall is more distinguished. During the gas refining period, he can wear a 3-cloud coat, while the disciple in the outer hall cannot hang the 3 clouds until the foundation is built. It's a private fight, Zhang Wei said very quietly. What is private fighting? Ye Kong whispered. Zhang Wei twisted her neck, and the man's enthusiasm hit her neck, which made her very uncomfortable. She wanted to keep the boy away, but once again, the tree was not thick. To hide 2 people, she had to squeeze tightly. In addition, although the black egg was close to itself, it did not behave badly, and his eyes looked outwards clearly. I am more worried. Although the sunspot has a color on his mouth, in fact, he is good and is so good to himself. He tries his best to find materials for himself. If other people want to come up with these 3,000 years of wood thorns, he may not ask anything. Zhang Wei suddenly felt a little sorry, so he hugged Ye Kong's arm again and whispered in his ear, private fighting is a conflict between martial disciples, so I asked a few friends and set a place to resolve conflicts. Oh, Ye Kong nodded. At this moment his attention has been completely attracted by the fighting on the field. Since his debut, he has experienced a lot of fighting, but it is the first time that other monks have fought. Needless to say, watching other monks fighting is definitely helpful to oneself, so Ye Kong watched very enthusiastically. Because of this, he did not notice Zhang Wei holding his arm, but this posture is not conducive to hiding. Ye Kong almost unconsciously pulled his arm out of Zhang Wei's arms, and then grabbed her soft waist. This posture is even more ambiguous than just now. Zhang Wei's cheeky face can't help but turn his head, but this guy didn't mean it on purpose. So Little Pepper smiled down, relaxed behind her back, and rested her head comfortably on the guy's chest. Then they fought like this. Didn't Zhongli care? Yekong asked again. Zhongli's mountain patrol team are all disciples, and many of these private fights are the disciples of Zhongli Jidan and even Yuanying's ancestors. They can't control it, so as long as they are out, someone manages. I don't think there is such a thing. It seems that there are rivers and lakes in people's places. This is true. What if someone is killed? Yekong could not help asking again. It depends on who is dead. If the other person is also a disciple of an old ancestor in Zhongli, then the matter will be great. But if the dead disciple has no background, the punishment will be much lighter. Zhang. After Wu Yi finished, he pointed to the one among the viewers who was standing in the middle of the disciple. Did you see Qiu Jianguang? In a private fight last year, he accidentally killed two disciples, but punished him for 2 years. But he has come out before the year has passed. Yekong looked along Zhang Wui's fingers, and saw that the one named Qiu Jianguang was the highest disciple on both sides. The other disciples were in the middle and late stages of gas refining, and the boy was already very successful in gas refining. Qiu Jianguang looked very arrogant and didn't pay attention to fighting on the court, but was busy talking to a nun around. The female man's face was crooked and invisible, but looking at the familiar yellow coat, it was still very clear that it was Cucumber's sister. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 316. 315 Qiu Jianguang. Is Qiu Jianguang very powerful? Good qualifications. I can't see it. Yekong made no secret of his hostility towards Qiu Jianguang. Zhang Wui shouted, did you watch Huang Zixuan be jealous with him? Oh, rest assured, although Qiu Jianguang chases Xian hardly, but he has no choice but to deliberately ruthlessly. Xian has a heart. It's not Cao Junfan. It seems that the relationship between nuns and nuns in this case is very complicated. It is not just a love triangle. Don't talk nonsense, I won't be jealous. My wife has two, and there is an uncle who hasn't entered the door. Zhang Wui despised the boy with his eyes. He just wanted to take advantage of himself, and now he acted like a saint. Che, why do you look at Qiu Jianguang? As an outsider disciple, can I express my indignation at this guy who killed his fellow students? Zhang Wui threw a white eye backwards and upwards, and then urged, in Yunfuzong, it's okay to provoke other disciples, but don't provoke Qiu Jianguang, he is not what you can handle. Oh, why? He is just like you, and his refining is complete. Yekong looked again at the male monk named Qiu Jianguang, except that he was big and nothing special. Zhang Wui said, the fight that the monk saw was not just about repairing. The magic weapon and fairy pet are very important, as well as the combat experience and means. This guy is cruel and insane. As long as he shoots, the opponent is dead or injured, so the disciples in the area are afraid of him, and ordinary people who build the base are unwilling to mess with him. Yekong nodded, it seems that this is a ruthless person, but it is a bit like himself, even worse than his own means. Is he also a terrific instrument pet? Yekong asked again. Actually, Qiu Jianguang had just arrived at Yunfuzong. He was just a disciple, and his qualifications were not good. It was just a root of the four spirits. Later, I didn't know what happened. Suddenly one day, he got worse, and then he was Cao Guang. His ancestor Lu Xianxian became a disciple, and he became a disciple in the inner court. It is rumored outside that what adventure he got. Zhang Wui said that it is very possible. This Kangnan continent has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years. There are not many ordinary monks at the ruins and sites. It is also possible to get an adventure. Otherwise, how could Qiu Jianguang suddenly become powerful? Then what is he best about? Yekong asked again. Zhang Wui said, listening to others, Qiu Jianguang's most powerful tool is a superb weapon, the wolf howling banner. It is said to be an ancient monk's object. When used, it can release a soul of the howling wolf king. The soul can not only fight close to the opponent, but also release wind spells. Not to mention that you have 7 layers of refining gas, that is, the 7th layer of the foundation, but they can't fight the Howling Wolf King. The flag is the soul. This is not surprising, there is 100 souls in Yekong's storage bag. However, Yekong never knew that the spirit of the spirit beast can also be collected into the soul, and more importantly, that soul can even release spells. No doubt, this flag is a good thing, much more powerful than the spirit. For example, if a monk's soul is received in the soul will be refined into a ghost, and it will hurt you in battle. But that Li Gui attack method is very single, it is nothing more than ghost fog, never said that this Li ghost can release spells. Moreover, this flag is more convenient than raising a spirit beast. It does not need to feed or worry about its injury. It is very convenient to release it when it is used and not to retract it. Yekong and even YY, if there are dozens of flags, it will be an army of spirit beasts that save money and effort. Hear nothing. Don't mess with him. Zhang Wei found that the boy was absent-minded and couldn't help but hit Yekong with his back. However, this collision, the stock also backed up, just happened to be on the rogue spot of a rogue. At this moment, Ye Hollow Soul was swayed, and then he noticed that his posture with Chili was too close. Sister Siewei, I reminded, rest assured, I have made up my mind to be a Loki and Loki pick up Yekong. Hey, heart, brother Wulin, your sister is too innocent. After eating the tofu in my arm, I now eat it again, it's down. Oh, let's forget, I'll lose a little. At this moment of their conversation, there were changes on the court. Under a long battle, that outsider disciple has already lost his spiritual power. While manipulating the turquoise flying sword, he is constantly pouring spirit wine. A nun beside him is full of anxiety and also holds a hand. Fei Jian, but did not dare to shoot. The opposite disciple in the opposite situation is much better. His weapon is a golden shuttle-like weapon, diamond-shaped, pointed at both ends, small in size, but not small in power. Too far. The disciple in the inner hall not only was not tired at all, but also smiled at the opposite side. Ye Xian, you can't fight me. I think you are better to be generous and give Dong'er to me. I think it's all from a village. For your part, I can help you in Zhongli in the future. Ye Feng, you dream. I and Dong'er have been relatives since we were young, and you don't know how it can be attractive. The apprentice named Ye Xian screamed angrily. However, Ye Xian was originally lacking in spiritual power. This excitement suddenly caused the Huang Fijian to slow down, while Jinchuo just happened to avoid Fijian's sharp edge. Then Jinchuo slammed into the weakest sword of Fijian, and Dangyu made a crisp sound. The earth-colored Fijian was immediately struck and changed direction, and slammed in the direction of the woods. Seeing Ye Xian's situation was worrying, the female repairer named Dong'er quickly offered a flying sword, trying to help Ye Xian to block the golden flying shuttle. But at this moment, Qiu Qianguang on the field hadn't been paying attention, but suddenly raised his hand. Thunderfire curse, a white jade charm flew out. Qiu Qianguang recited the curse very quickly. He heard a click, and a flash of lightning out of nowhere, flew out the flying sword just released by Dong'er. Ye Xian and Ye Feng are fighting each other, no one else can intervene. If you do, I will do it. Qiu Qianguang immediately shocked all the other disciples in the other party. Those outsider disciples had heard of the name of Kixing Qianguang and did not dare to mess with him, but their friend Ye Xian was about to lose, which made them not in a hurry. The most urgent thing was the girl named Dong'er. She is crying. The golden shuttle hit Fei Tu Huang Fei Jian and immediately flew to Ye Xian. Ye Xian's spiritual power was exhausted, and the spiritual shield was basically useless. If hit by this shuttle, Ye Xian would at least be seriously injured. However, Jinchuo missed a point and did not hit Ye Xian at all. It's not Ye Feng's good heart. The key is that the scene on the side of the woods is so amazing that nearly 20 pairs of eyes on the field have looked at it, and Ye Feng is no exception. Ye Xian's flying sword was blown away, and it happened that he hit the tree they were hiding from, and that flying sword was also a middle-class magic weapon, and the trunk was shattered in one fell swoop. A pair of nuns appeared, and they seemed to be hugging each other intimately. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 317. 316 Helps Help. Zhang Wei in a red suit is very eye-catching. He is also a red person in Zhongli, a young and beautiful girl. Everywhere is the object of attention of men. Many male practitioners regard Pepper as a fantasy object, including that Qiu Qianguang. However, Qiu Qianguang learned that the favorite girl was caught by the female BT, and immediately decisively changed direction to go after Master Huang Zixuan. Why does every man look at Zhang Wei first, then Huang Zixuan? It's not that the cucumber crush is not pretty. The key is that Zhang Wei has a character like a boy, stepping on you or kicking you. Boys eat this set. Zhang Wei has no intention, others have intentions. Therefore, Qiu Qianguang still has some nostalgia for Zhang Wei, but at this moment, the girl in her heart leans so leanly on a black-faced man. If this man is very good, then that's all. The guy is a 7th-tier gas refiner and a disciple. As soon as Ye Kong appeared, Zhang Wei was released quickly, but it was too late and everyone saw it. All the inner disciples looked at his expression, and that was anger. It's so hateful. We have a flower in the inner hall. Only 7 layers of gas are refined, so dark. But the thing that made them even more angry was still behind. I saw the beautiful green and pure cucumber crush calling out, "He's Then she rushed over and hugged Ye Kong's arm. Dark. It's too dark. It's so dark. Qiu Qianguang can't wait for his eyes to go wrong and see it wrong. How could it be that the 2 most beautiful girls in Yunfuzong Niatang were not connected with this black-faced monk? When was the 7th floor of gas refining so popular? Actually, Huang Zixuan hugged Ye Kong and asked, "Have my crystal clear silk socks been brought back?" "Of course I'll bring it back, I'll talk later," Zhang Wei answered first, and winked at Huang Zixuan at the same time. Huang Zixuan noticed Qiu Qianguang's face that was going to eat people. Although she was not afraid of Qiu Qianguang, she didn't want to cause trouble to the sunspots. Qiu Qianguang's strength was strong and the means were fierce. He was afraid that the sunspots would die. "This master, look at me." Qiu Qianguang's smile on his face was uglier than crying. "This is our powerful disciple, Li He's." Someone in the Weitang had spoken first. Ye Kong looked at it, but it was the blue sky that had seen both sides. In fact, there was a reason for Lan Ming to speak. Although Li He was not strong, his 2 girlfriends were both consummate gas refiners. If all 3 stood here, their strength would be strengthened immediately. After listening to the blue sky, Qiu Qianguang laughed. "I haven't come out for a year, this world has changed, and the 7th floor of gas refining can claim to be a strong disciple, which is really funny." Although Ye Kong had warned himself to keep a low profile, his personality made him unable to bear his breath. Ye Kong ignored the 2 girls who blinked at him, looked at Qiu Qianguang playfully, and laughed. "The awards are superior to me. The 10th layer of gas refining thinks the world is invincible. Oops, really admire ground." 5 bodies cast their ground. The 2 were in a pair. The dilemma was for the 2 women. The hardest was Huang Zixuan. They complained about what they were doing badly. Why did they agree to come here to help out? They didn't figure out what they were doing. "Sunspot, you can say a little less." Huang Zixuan flushed with anxiety, but when she found that Li's personality was stronger than Qiu Qianguang, she had to persuade Qiu Qianguang again. "Qiu Qianguang. He's is me and Wu Yi. Friend, brother, you are not allowed to talk to my brother like this. Qiu Jianguang heard a little sigh of relief. Brother, not just love brother. In order to extinguish the beauty's anger, Qiu Jianguang softened, and held a fist in front of Ye Kong, and said loudly, misunderstanding and misunderstanding, next is Qiu Jianguang of the inner hall. Ye Kong was also softened by Zhang Wei, and nodded back, Weitang Li Heza. He's a brothers, the two masters here resolve some personal contradictions. Otherwise, let's wait for a while to tell the story, Qiu Jianguang said with a smile. Zhang Wei knew Li Heza's personality, so he was afraid that he would provoke Qianxin Jianguang, so he pulled Ye Kong's yang away. But Ye Kong forcefully wrapped her waist and pulled her back forcefully. Yeah, brother Qiu Jianguang first. Seeing Ye Kong walk into the opposite camp, Lan Tianming was annoyed for a while, scolding Li Heza for being inflamed, and not helping the same cousin. He stood in the middle of the disciple. This Ye Xian and Ye Feng, are they brothers? Ye Kong asked after standing. After some explanations from other inner court disciples, Ye Kong realized that Ye Xian and Ye Feng were not brothers, but came from a village called Yejia village. All are from the village, so they all have the same family name as Ye, but the relationship is not good. It can be said to be extremely bad. And they chose to fight here today because of that female nun called Dong-er. Because of the emergence of Ye Kong and Zhang Wei, Ye Xian was relieved. He drank a few sips of spirit wine, and drew the spirit power of several spirit stones. Now he has the ability to fight, but everyone knows that his final result is still a failure. At best it is a matter of time. Ye Xian, you don't have to make unnecessary efforts, tell you, you can't. Ye Feng held the golden shuttle, and yelled in a cold voice, Ye Xian, you're not as good as me, and you're not as good as me. What is the hope of winning? Do you still not understand it? Xianxia is a world with weak meat and strong food. Without strength, you are not worthy of having a woman. I think you are still honest, Dong-er let it out. Ye Feng himself knew this, but he still insisted. Ye Feng, do you really like Dong-er? If so, I can give up my original marriage contract. Unfortunately, you are not, you just want to cheat me. You don't have any real affection for Dong-er. Ye Feng laughed, what's the matter? Do you think I'm Ye Feng or the young master who didn't learn in the village? I tell you, I'm a disciple in the inner church, and I'm not going to improve in the future. Are there few women? How can this qualification deserve me? Ye Xian angered, since you don't like her, and you don't think she deserves you, why are you fighting hard? That's because I think you're upset. Ye Feng pointed at Ye Xian and said loudly, I just want to steal your woman. Who told you to scold me for being incompetent in the village? Ye Feng finished and looked again, looking at the little nun on the opposite side. She smiled and said, although her qualifications are not good, her looks are still very good. It is still good to go back to play in a side room, ha ha ha. Following Ye Feng, a group of disciples in the back laughed. Ye Kong frowned, and there were so many disciples in the heart to help. At this point, Huang Zixuan also just realized that he dared to run by himself to help him, to help Ye Feng bully the male and female. Seeing Ye Kong frown, she quickly whispered, hey brother, I don't know what happened, they want me to come, and I'll come. Although Huang Zixuan's voice was small, Qiu Jianguang heard it clearly. He was displeased and looked at Ye Kong and said, the strongest person in the world of cultivation is the respected person. He who does not have the strength is not worth having a woman. Does the brother Li Hezi have different opinions? Ye Kong coldly hummed and didn't look at him, saying, when brother Qiu has an acquaintance, the younger brother will also grab your woman like that, brother Qiu will take it for granted, right? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 318. March 17th will never compromise. You, Qiu Jianguang stared at him, looking at Ye Kong angrily. But Huang Zixuan hurry up in front of him. Qiu Jianguang then suppressed the anger, and sneered, "You must have the strength to grab it." When they talked, there was a change in the field, and they saw that Dong Er, the female nun, stood up, pointed at herself with a flying sword, and said, "Ye Feng, since you are so hard-pressed, Dong Er is only dead." Ye Feng's decision never touched Ye Feng. He laughed, "Dong Er, you are really stupid. Do you think it would be useful if you die? My purpose is not you, my purpose is him. Even if you die, I still have to torture him, bully him, and make him regret scolding me." Ye Feng's behavior was a little too much. Others had only scolded him at first, and he cherished resentment till now. He was so hard-pressed that even death could not eliminate his resentment. Not only Ye Kong, but even some inner disciples felt that this was not good. Huang Zixuan whispered and asked Qiu Jianguang why he was helping such people. Qiu Jianguang finally spoke, "Ye Feng, almost even if it is the same disciples. It may be that the day of resentment was too deep." Ye Feng was still unhappy at first, but thinking about it could not offend Qiu Jianguang, so he changed his tongue and said, "Ye Xian, since brother Qiu Guangguang has said, then I do nt want your woman, then, come here, kneel in front of me, give me 3 bangs, and apologize to me. If you are sincere enough, I can open up to you today." After hearing this, Ye Xian shook a bit. After all, there is no need to give up the beloved Dong Er to the other party. If that's the case, Dong Er may really die soon. Ye Xining may suffer some grievances on his own, but also keep the beloved woman. After thinking about it for a while, Ye Xian slowly walked over, and the shouts of the disciples in the hall sounded behind him. "Ye Xian, don't, in front of so many colleagues. If Ye Xian kneels, he will never lift him in the future." Beginning. Dong Er was crying and came up to hold Ye Xian, but Ye Xian still shook off Dong Er's arm. "Dong Er, the cultivator is the strongest. I don't deserve you, you go. You must go in the future. Find a prince who can protect you from grievances." Ye Xian knew that his kneeling would become his eternal laughter, and he would always have to walk with his head down in Yunfuzong. However, at this moment, if you want to keep the winter in order, you can only kneel down. "Haha, Ye Xian, I think you are so amazing. It turns out that you are a puppet. Come here and kneel to the little master." Ye Feng laughed proudly. Slowly, Ye Xian came over. At this moment, Zhang Huai and Huang Zixuan really couldn't stand it anymore. They couldn't help turning their heads and didn't want to look at the scene in front of them. Ye Xian came slowly, every step was so difficult. The surrounding disciples also turned around. They were all outside disciples. No one helped, and no master disciples maintained. Ye Xian knelt down. Isn't it the sadness of the disciples? Ye Xian had stood in front of Ye Feng, his legs were slightly bent, but it was difficult to kneel. "But what if you don't kneel?" Ye Xian gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and as soon as his legs were soft, he knelt down. "Well." Ye Xian heard several people sigh at the same time. "Cultivation in the immortal world is the strongest, the other party is stronger than you, let you kneel, you have to kneel." But when he knelt halfway, he realized that he couldn't kneel, and he pulled the collar behind his neck with a strong force. Then he heard a word that made him remember his whole life. "It's shameful to defeat, shame on the enemy." When Ye Xian opened his eyes, in front of him were a pair of eyes that he could never forget, staring angrily and staring at him. "It is shameful to defeat the shameless, kneeling to the enemy. You know. If you kneel, you are truly defeated, forever. But what can I do? It's easy to say, but what about you? What would you do if you were in my place?" Ye Xian seemed hysterical. "If it were me, I would at this moment, while he was lax, rushed up and caught his vitals. Don't let go of death. Even if you fight for me, I will insult him and give it back to him all." Let him understand, how stupid to be my enemy of Li Hizi. Even if he is strong, I will, never compromise and never step back. Ye Kong's words were like a hammer hitting everyone's heart. Never compromise, never back, this is Ye Kong's character, and the creed he insists on. Even if he dies, he has no regrets. The sunlight was extremely enthusiastic. Ye Xian only felt a rush of heat in his heart, and could no longer restrain the anger in his heart. He shouted and slammed at Ye Feng, who was already foolish. But at this moment, Qiu Jianguang came up, and he re-examined the dark-skinned seven-layer monk of refining guess. He knew that he had encountered a cruel person, a crueler person than himself. Qiu Jianguang does not want to be an enemy with this, but it looks like it must be done. He saw admiration from Huang Zixuan's eyes and saw respect. Sooner or later he was his enemy. The best way for such an enemy is to kill him in the cradle. Brazilian brothers, you disturbed the scene, I said. Ye Xian and Ye Feng, do blame others, otherwise don't blame me. Whoever it is, actually Qiu Jianguang said at the time that he was not allowed to shoot. Ye Kong also no shot was taken, but Qiu Jianguang deliberately provoked and temporarily changed his meaning. Brother Qiu wants to compete with me, Ye Kong asked coldly. He saw the hostility in the other's eyes, and his eyes no longer concealed the murder. This is definitely a pair of eyes that have killed many talents. Qiu Jianguang saw the cruelty in Ye Kong's eyes, which further strengthened his determination to kill his opponent. Brazilian brothers, I actually don't want to do this, but what I said about Qiu Jianguang, if I don't want to talk to you, how will I lose face in the future, Qiu Jianguang said with a sneer. Qiu Jianguang, Huang Zixuan rushed over and blocked Ye Kong angrily. Qiu Jianguang, how can you do this? Hizi didn't even take a shot, but he said a few words. Now I also isn't it that you have to compete with me? And then Zhang I rushed to the store, took a storage bag, took out the flying sword, and glared at Qiu Jianguang. Qiu Jianguang, want to fight with Hizi brother, you first pass my level. Looking at the two young female reparos blocking Li Hizi, Qiu Jianguang's killing was more prosperous. He knew that if he didn't kill the boy, he would lose the battle completely. Let us go. Men do have to intervene in women's affairs, Qiu Jianguang exclaimed. No, Huang Zixuan was compelled to pull out a flying sword. Do you want to fight with me? Qiu Jianguang laughed, then pointed at Ye Kong behind the two women. Li Hizi, hiding behind a woman, what kind of man are you? You help Ye Xian speak because you are too a puppet with no strength. I want you to understand that this is a world of great power. Without strength, you are not worthy of a woman. The entangled Ye Xian and Ye Feng couldn't attract everyone's attention. Everyone didn't expect that Qiu Jianguang even fought with Li Hizi, but everyone didn't like Li Hizi, and even thought that Li Hizi was sure did not dare to fight. Even the bloodthirsty disciple who was just a little bit impulsive was relieved. After all, Qiu Jianguang's strength, as well as his mysterious Wolverine flag, are daunting. However, at this time, Ye Kong saw Zhang Kanji gently walk out of the two girls. Qiu Jianguang, no matter which battlefield, you are losers. In my eyes, not even bird feathers. To the reader. Today is more than 7, do NT forget to use your bricks to support you. If you do NT have a number, leave a footprint in Xiaoman's interview. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 319. 318 Wolf Howling Banner. Seeing Ye Kong fighting, the field was quiet, and countless eyes looked at several people in the field. Ye Xian also no longer tore up with Ye Feng, hurried back, and trembled and begged, forget it, it's all for my sake, everyone is the same door, don't hurt feelings. If the most tense is Huang Zixuan, she knows the root of this matter, and knows Qiu Jianguang's power. Last time, Qiu Jianguang missed and killed 2 outside students, which she saw with her own eyes. At that time, Qiu Jianguang had no effort at all, releasing Xiaofeng Wolf, two outside students. One of them had successfully built the foundation, and both could not block the overwhelming wind blade. One of the gas-refining monks who did not have a defense weapon was broken in a blink of an eye and cut into numerous small pieces by the wind blade. The other real person who just built the foundation did not resist for a long time, and was soon hit by several wind blades, and the body was broken into several sections. The most horrifying thing is that the real defense-based weapon that builds the base, the ironwood shield, the dense damage and gaps above it are shocking. You must know that the strength of the ironwood shield is no less than the protection of fine iron casting. Shield. Huang Zixuan couldn't see that Li Hizi was better than that of Zhuji. Qiu Jianguang. If you really want to fight Li Hizi, I will never ignore you. Although Huang Zixuan said something weak, she looked firmly at the opposite side. If I don't kill him, you will ignore me. Qiu Jianguang snorted, thinking in his heart, did he ask Huang Zixuan to be a priest at this time? If this woman agrees, then her purpose will be achieved. Of course, this Li Hizi must be killed, but just find an opportunity next time. But at the moment of Qiu Jian's calculation, Li Hizi spoke again. If you want to hit, just hit it. Don't let it go. Qiu Jianguang is almost going to vomit blood. Is it my mother's trouble, it? When Ye Kong spoke, Zhang Huiyi and Huang Zixuan were in a hurry. What's wrong with Li Hizi? You are too ignorant of current affairs. Can Qiu Guangguang deal with it? After trying to persuade Qiu Jianguang to calm down, you proactively provoked, you are not arrogant and stupid. Hey, can you say one less thing? Everyone is in the same door. Just tolerate one sentence, Huang Zixuan said, squinting at Zhang Huiyi and letting her drag away Ye Kong. But Ye Kong shook his hand, pushed Zhang Huiyi away, and sighed, give it away, don't advise. Neither I nor him will agree. We must fight today. Even if we can't fight today, next time we will to fight. Qiu Jianguang agreed with Ye Kong for the first time, you're right. This makes Zhang Huiyi and Huang Zixuan hardly understand. What is the deep hatred between the two? This is the first time I've met, why can't I get along well, just for some conflict of words, is it necessary? Of course it is necessary, Qiu Jianguang didn't say anything, and some men, who cannot be friends, are the most dangerous enemies. He waved his hand, patted the storage bag, and a long wax rod appeared in his hand. Push it away. It's a man's business, you women don't understand. Qiu Jianguang shook his right hand, and the triangular black flag wrapped around the half of the white wax pole unfolded in the wind. A portrait of a vivid blue howling wolf appeared. Wolf howling flag, all the monks at the scene exclaimed, many of them only heard about it before, and only saw it for the first time today. The monk who saw Qiu Jianguang using the wolf howling flag, even sighed, this black-faced monk is afraid that he will not be able to save his life today. What to do? Huang Zixuan and Zhang Huiyi looked at each other, and when things got to this point, they knew that stopping was impossible. Rest assured, Qiu Jianguang is very powerful, and my Li Hizi is not weak, just rest assured. Do you think I am a loser? Ye Kong pushed the two girls away. If you want to say that Li Hizi is really not a loser, Zhang Huiyi has been with him for several months. Every time someone is unlucky, he has seen him lose, and he can't even take advantage of him. How could such a shrewd guy be stupid? With such a mentality, Zhang Huiyi pulled Huang Zixuan away and walked aside, but the flying sword in her hand was still not put back, ready to rescue at any time. Huang Zixuan walked away uneasily and turned back to Qiu Jianguang and shouted, you must not hurt brother Hizi, otherwise I will not finish with you. Relax, I won't kill him. Qiu Jianguang looked at the other side and smiled darkly, I would not kill him, but he would abandon his practice, so that he could never practice. At this moment, all the monks stood away from afar, watching the field, someone excited and sighed. They all looked at the black-faced monk. This guy is not as good as the other, and still so hard. Is there any magic weapon? However, they were a little disappointed. The Lihiza did not come up with any instruments, not even the lower ones. He simply hit himself with a spiritual shield, and then stood opposite Qiu Jianguang. Brazilian brothers, come up with your magic weapon, let's fight like a man, don't try to make a fame. Qiu Jianguang stared at the other party. He did not underestimate the enemy, he believed that the dark weapon would not even connect nor. Mr. Man, do you know what a man is? Yekong said with a smirk. You don't understand. Don't think that a X bar in your pants is a man. There is love and hate in your chest, dignity under your feet, and you have a man. Bottom line, do something and do nothing, this is the real man. Yekong said with a sigh, well, telling you this is really, you will never understand. I have to admit that you are deceiving and deceiving a little woman. It's really quite a set, but now it is better than strength. There is a set, if you are a woman, you will find that I have several sets. Hey, Qiuqi and Guang, are you afraid? What are you talking nonsense, can't you hit? Isn't that because you didn't get a weapon? Qiu Jian's face turned blue with anger, since you are so arrogant, I don't mind if you die faster. Qiu Qiangguang's voice didn't fall, he raised the wolf howling flag and waved it suddenly. With the triangle-shaped flag flying in the wind, a blue-white light group was shaken from the flag, the size of the light group fist, and there were countless thorn-like lights around. Appear, Howling Wolf King. As soon as the light mass fell to the ground, it turned into a huge plump wolf with blue hair all over the body, and a white hair under the neck was more noble. As soon as the Howling Wolf King came out, he immediately raised his head and howled, "Hey!" The Wolf King was assured, this long and distant cry echoed through the woods, and later, the wolves responded from far away. However, Xiaofeng Wolf King did not continue to respond, but shook his hair, then stared at Yekong with a pair of fiery eyes. Yekong is also looking at the Howling Wolf King, he is more interested in the wolf howling banner. You must know that the ghost released by the Soul Lord is a ghost, but this Howling Wolf King can be turned into an entity. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 320. 319 Wind Forest Blade Mountain. Hey brothers, don't you have the money to buy a magic weapon? Would you like me to borrow your messenger? Qiu Jianguang laughed. You're really talking so much, I'll scare you if you just take out a magic weapon. Yekong is really not bragging, Gu Bao, a high-end magic weapon. It's very convenient to get this. Qiu Jianguang. Suo Ling took out a bomb, and the boy couldn't bear it. But now the key issues, those things really cannot come up, exposed as soon as they come out. Qiu Jianguang failed to please her and did not speak any more. She raised a finger to Yekong and ordered, go. Howling Wolf King was more excited than being beaten by chicken blood. Two front paws slammed into the ground, one person jumped high, and rushed to Yekong. You can see that 5 black tips have popped out of the fluffy claws. Thorn. Pediatrics, Yekong kicked his feet a little, soaring in a shadowy pose, jumping higher than the Xiaofeng Wolf King. In the air, he kicked the wolf's head fiercely. Yekong was the first time to show Yingwu in public. This thing is really beautiful. With only one leap action, he is so free-handed that the female nuns who are present have flashed approval in his eyes. However, the Howling Wolf King is not so easy to deal with, it slammed a mouthful of blood, biting at Yekong's feet. Too close, Yekong couldn't hold his legs. I saw his tiptoe smartly a little in front of the wolf's mouth, his body flipped again, and the white figure flew to the side like catkins. In the first attack, everyone was tentative, and obviously they did not do their best. To everyone's surprise, Lihiza didn't use the magic weapon to attack and defend. Generally, Monks fight each side and then sacrifice or use spells. This method of Lihiza looks very fresh, but it is a bit like worldly martial arts. Unexpectedly, the black brothers are still practicing. Qiu Jianguang snorted, knowing that the boy was really hidden, and began to fight. Not at all. I don't even need aura to deal with this beast. Ye Kong's words hurt Zhonghui. I want to curse. Lihiza, can you do something? Is this a common beast? Don't use it if you have the ability. Qiu Jianguang snorted, and stunned his hands, and saw the howling wolf king suddenly lifted his front legs, and whispered in his mouth. Then the wolf stood up like a human. And then, watch it flash across the cyan streamer. It blessed itself with blast, Huang Zixuan reminded loudly. Thank you. Ye Kong Zhao Bao smiled, took out a wind-type spell and hit him. Come on, the howling wolf king who got the command rushed up again. After blessing blast, it moved faster and lighter. However, Ye Kong is not weak. He has also transformed into a white shadow to the wolf king who has come like the same blue shadow. The two shadows, one blue and one white, are staggered in the field, chasing. If they are ordinary people, they will not see their movements clearly. But all the monks were present, and their speed was not fast enough for the monks to see. To the monks who were present at the scene, Ye Kong and Xiaofeng Wolf King fought for a long time, but no one had encountered anyone, and there was no substantial contact, as if two masters were constantly trying to recruit. This blue wolf is a good companion to practice Yingwu. Ye Kongton no dodged, trying to catch Xiaofeng Wolf King, but was evaded by Wolf King again and again. This kid hasn't got a magic weapon yet. Qiu Jianguang also felt very shameless. He had already produced the most powerful magic weapon, but they were still empty-handed. But Qiu Jianguang soon had a plan. Ye Kong, who was fighting with Xiaolang Wolf King empty-handed, suddenly found that the movement of the Wolf King was delayed. He seized the opportunity and stretched out his hands at the same time. He caught the two front legs of the Wolf King and raised one foot to mammoth the Wolf Queen crotch. This shameless action saw Zhang Hui's face flushed. This black kid brother was shameless. He beat people to focus on the third lane, as well as the animals. It was really shameless. But Huang Zixuan didn't notice these, because she found that Qiu Jianguang smiled secretly on the face of Hazage when he caught Wolfpaw, and his hand was fiercely tricked. Conspiracy. Hazage, be careful with the blade, Huang Zixuan shouted. Hearing Huang Zixuan's reminder, Qiu Jianguang was annoyed and anxious to choke Huang Zixuan to death. In fact, even if Huang Zixuan didn't remind him, Ye Kong's ink armor could easily be taken over for a wind attack that was not very powerful. However, if the inner armor is exposed like that, the fewer people who know these life-saving things, the better. Thank you for reminding. Ye Kong kicked the flying Wolf King with a chic volley, and almost at the same time, Xiaofeng Wolf King spit out a blue and white wind blade, passing by Ye Kong. How do I look like Shadow Wu? At this moment, a graceful woman with a white veil coming out of Yun Fuzong just saw this scene, and her beautiful eyes immediately stagnated. Beside the woman, an old monk with white beard also paid attention to it, looked at it with a frown, and frowned. He is Yun Fuzong's disciple. The woman was Yi Manying, who left from Yun Fuzong's office. She heard Gao Yuanhang's tone and asked, "Do you know him?" Gao Yuanhang laughed. "This person is exactly the arrogant little monk I mentioned to the young master." Yi Manying opened a small mouth, and his eyes looking at Ye Kong were full of doubts, but from this the dark-faced guy couldn't see a trace of that minor repair in his heart. Yi Manying couldn't help asking, "This is the young monk who dares to challenge Cao Guang's father?" Exactly. Earlier, Yi Manying heard of this incident and thought Ye Kong had arrived in Surabaya city, because of his arrogant character. I am afraid that there are not many in the Kangnan Xiaoxian realm. But now I saw it, I was a little disappointed, but this did not completely solve her suspicion. After all, it is said that there is a kind of elixir in Linjiao Mountain, which can be easily changed. Yekan na S kid is close to Lingyalan Sjo Tulianlan. It is likely that this secret elixir was obtained. Watching this black-faced monk make a move of Yingwu. Regardless of whether this person is Yekong, Yumening decided to take a closer look. It happened that I heard a howl from the Howling Wolf King, and many monks walked out of Yunfuzong to watch from afar, so Yumening and Gao Yuanhang were also hidden among them, observing this person. Seeing Yekong easily escape the killing blow, Qiu Jianguang was furious and decided not to let the Xiaofeng Wolf King fight with this boy. The tricks in his hands changed, and a few esoteric words were spit out in his mouth, and he finally sang, Fenglan Blade Mountain. I saw the Howling Wolf King screamed a low roar, and slammed open, a haze of blue and white, and that mist quickly turned into a large wind blade, flying into the air. The wind blade of the Howling Wolf King is stronger than the wind blade technique used by low-level monks. The wind blade does not shoot straight, but sprays into the sky and then drops like a parabola. The advantage of this wind blade is its large range. People have nowhere to hide. What's more, the Howling Wolf King is really powerful. The mist in his mouth blows out, and the waves of wind blades in the sky are dense and dense. It looks like a jungle of wind blades. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 321. 3020 Powerful Instruments. Seeing how powerful the Howling Wolf King is, the onlookers around him pinched sweat for Yekong. Even Yumening couldn't help but change his face and said, what kind of spirit beast is this Howling Wolf King and why is it so powerful? Hearing that the well-informed young master did not know, Gao Yuanhang laughed. Subordinates have seen it in an ancient book. Xiaofeng Wolf is an ancient spirit beast, its strength is equivalent to the middle-class spirit beast, and the king of howling wolves is even more fierce. Many of them are first-class spirit beasts, and they are a group of several hundred, so even ordinary monks see them and run away. After hearing this, Yumening couldn't help but marvel. I only listened to Gao Yuanhang and said, unfortunately, Xiaofeng Wolf was extinct more than 100,000 years ago. This monk who uses the wolf howling flag is probably a coincidence to get the ancient monk's treasure. Hunt down a howling wolf king to gain soul. That's for sure. Yumening nodded and said, it seems that the refining of the chi flag still only retains a little strength of the howling wolf king, otherwise, the power of this thing will be a little stronger. Little Master Jioming Gao Yuanhang snapped a fart, and then said, refining the spirit of a spirit beast into the magic weapon, it is good to retain the power of the spirit beast by 20% to 20%, and this user the great realm of talent refining also limits the exertion of this material. Yumening watched how fierce Howling Wolf King was, and couldn't help moving his heart, and asked, can anyone make such a wolf howl? Gao Yuanhang shook his head. Young master, in fact, our company has also sold related flags. I have also asked many masters of the refiner, but they all said that the flag is well controlled, and the spirit and soul are refined and the ability to make it material is lost. Yumening nodded and said, when the black-faced miner repair wins, let's go to the owner. It's better to buy the wolf howling flag and give it to the Yi family's master craftsman to study it. Gao Yuanhang wondered, Master, how do you know that this black-faced miner repair can win? The wind blade is so dense, I think he is in danger. Yumening said with a smile, I don't think he has a magic weapon at this moment, and I know he has a winning ticket. Looking at the wind blades hanging on the top of the head, the waves of blades falling constantly, Yekong didn't panic, but didn't ask for it, but took out the magic weapon and the golden shield broadsword. Human shield. The golden broadsword disintegrated immediately, combined, and then a small golden shield appeared in Yekong's hands. Seeing Yekong take out the instrument, Huang Zixuan felt relieved. The guy didn't seem arrogant to an abnormal level. And Zhonghui I really stomped, this dead sunspot has a top-notch magic weapon, and he didn't tell me, it really irritates me. Seeing Yekong take out a top-quality instrument, Qiu Jianguang was startled, and said that the boy was indeed in stock. Brazilian brothers, Top quality instruments, good, it seems Chu still underestimates you, Chu Jianguang sneered, taking out one spirit stone in one hand, and the speed of the magic trick in the other hand was faster, and in response, the speed at which the Howling Wolf King spit out blue mist also accelerated by 30%. The speed suddenly increased, and Yekong, who was hiding in the wind blade, was also hit a few times. The blue-white wind blade hit the golden shield, making a loud noise, deafening. "Hey brothers, how do you feel?" "Haha, don't worry, I won't underestimate you. You just wait for more intense and violent blades." Yekong just smiled at Chu Jianguang, who was laughing wildly. "You will find that you will look down on me." If you ask Yekong what he is doing, many people actually know that he is feeling the rhythm of the wind blade issued by Howling Wolf King. This Howling Wolf King is a beast, the brain is simple, let it attack fast, and the rhythm is very regular. Suddenly, several wind blades fell and smashed on the golden shield. Although the golden shield did not respond much, Chu Jianguang still believed that the ants killed the elephant more, and the kid's golden shield was not large. "There are 1 or 2 hits on this blackbird, that's enough." In fact, Yekondeo hopes to be able to survive 1 or 2 times. He is now practicing Lingui refining Dafa, and he is going to endure various uninterrupted attacks. Such wind spells that can't kill him in one go are exactly good things to practice Lingui refining Dafa. However, there are too many people and Yekong doesn't want to expose his strength too much. Bang, another wind blade hit Yekong's golden shield. Yekong smiled slightly. Enough, he has grasped the rhythm of the wind blade. "Well, next time, leave it to me," Yekong said calmly. Then, let all the onlookers see an incredible scene. "Huajian, I saw that Yekong turned the well-used golden shield into a broadsword, then raised his hand and put this top-quality weapon into a storage bag." The onlookers were all staring, wondering what the boy was going to do. Looking at the overwhelming wind blade, it's so good that you support a top-quality defense weapon. It doesn't matter if you hit it twice. What did you do? Have you ever been kicked by a donkey? Huang Zixuan and Zhang Wei jumped in a hurry, cursing, "Spots! Quickly support the shield. Do you think your physical body is more powerful than top-quality defense instruments?" My subordinates can't understand it. Even Gao Yuanhang, who is so old-fashioned, was stunned. This Li Heza should rely on the sword and shield weapon to quickly approach Xiaofeng Wolf King, and then he may defeat it. He did it? Why did you collect the instrument? Do you want to commit suicide? Yi Menying said with a smile, "You don't understand this? You are really confused," she said, and said with certainty, "He has a more powerful and smoother defense weapon." Oh, Gao Yuanhang nodded. No wonder the black-faced boy is so proud. It seems that there are really a lot of good goods in his hands. However, everyone was shocked again. Yekong received the golden shield broadsword and did not remove any magic weapon. Instead, he patted the storage bag and took out a big hammer. Zhang Wei is about to vomit blood. This Li Heza is really not a normal person. You said that you use your sword and shield well. What do you do with a big hammer? Can this thing block so many wind blades? Behind her, there were whispers from several monks. "Oh my god, what kind of weapon is that? That's not a magic weapon at all. I can't feel the spiritual power fluctuations. I see, that's like a hammer in a blacksmith's iron making." Huang Zixuan almost fell to the ground with a bang. Really want to ask weakly, "Brother, hey, are you trying to hit the iron?"